Hey guys, welcome back to the Lift series on customer development. Once again today we're going to talk about customer interviews. Now one of the questions that comes up a lot when we talk about customer interviews, in particular when we encourage people to go accost strangers on the street, is that walking up to a stranger and asking them to answer a few questions for you is actually really kind of a difficult thing to do. In particular, sometimes people say no, sometimes they wander off. They treat you like you're one of those petitioner folks that wants to save the whales. It's not easy, but today we're going to share some tricks that might help you when you're out there approaching people for customer interviews. Now, I will point out that although you may not be approaching people on the street to do your customer interviews, these tips are still useful. We'll start with a simple one and kind of a weird one. It turns out that if you say the word because while you're explaining what you're doing, people are far more likely to go along with it. So if I go up to a potential customer and I say, hey, do you have a few seconds, can I interview you because I'm doing a project? It turns out saying because I'm doing a project actually helps you get a higher success rate. It's a weird thing because saying because I'm doing a project, I didn't actually give them any extra information at all. But for some reason our brain thinks that we've received extra information. That extra information seems reasonable and we're like, yeah, okay, of course, you're doing a project. Perfect explanation, fine, interview me. So it's important when you approach someone to explain why you're interviewing them, even if your explanation's a little vague and a little nonsense. I'd encourage you to be a little more specific and realistic, but if all you can really come up with is because I'm doing a project, at least try that. The other one is, as I said when I began the example, only need a few moments, right? A lot of us really want to be honest about how much time it might take, and it's true. A customer interview could take hours if everyone's really into it. The customer's excited about it. They're really loving the stories they're telling you. Everyone's having a lot of fun, but it could also last a few seconds. You're going to ask them a few qualifying questions. Maybe they just don't have anything to say to you. They can walk off at any time. So just saying, I only need a few moments of your time, and especially being sensitive to their needs. So if they need to go somewhere, it's really important to respect that. So we've done a lot of customer interviews with salespeople, and salespeople are while they're on the job. And when salespeople are on the job, they're sort of scanning the area for customers they need to help. And it's important when you're interviewing someone like that you say, if you need to go do your job, just feel free to just walk off. It's not rude. Because people will try to avoid being rude to you. Another thing you can do is when you first approach someone and you say, hey, can I ask you a few questions? I need a few minutes of your time. They think you're selling them something, right? So if you make clear that you're really asking them for advice, and maybe stroke their ego a little bit. Say, hey, we're looking to learn about a specific thing. This really helps too when you're sending emails to ask people to meet with you for coffee. If you're asking somebody to meet with you for a sales meeting, they're going to be kind of sketched out. If you're asking them for advice, I mean, who doesn't love giving advice, right? So make very clear early on in the conversation, kind of as quickly as you can, that you're looking for advice or you're looking for their expert judgment on something. People really like that, and it works really well. And then in closing, remember that everyone loves to tell stories. We've talked about this a couple different times, but it's worth reiterating again and again and again. Everyone loves telling stories. So if you notice that when you begin these conversations, people break off kind of quickly, or you get a few surface level things, they never really answer your questions, and then they're like, well, I gotta go, you should evaluate the conversation you're having and look at the questions you're asking. Are you really getting stories from them? And if you are really getting stories, what's happening there? Because when people are in the process of telling stories, and stories that bring them insights about themselves and teach you new things that you didn't know, you're saying, oh man, never thought of that. Oh, interesting. Yeah, thanks, that's great. They're not likely to go anywhere. So if your customers are running away from you, remember, explain why you're doing it. Tell them, because I'm doing a project, because I'm starting a new company that's going to help people like you do more awesome stuff, because I work at this other company and we're working on an amazing new product. Got to be a little careful that doesn't turn too much into a sales pitch, but give them a reason. Tell them you only need a few moments of their time and respect their time. That doesn't mean running away on them. If they're enjoying telling you stories and you're learning a lot from the conversation, Don't rush to end it, but be respectful that they may need to end it. Ask for advice. This one applies more over email than it does in person, but make sure it's clear that you're not trying to convince them of anything, that you need wisdom from them. People love sharing their wisdom, it makes them feel smarter. A lot of the times, honestly, when you get these people going deep in their stories, they'll learn as much about themselves as you do, and people find that really fulfilling. So don't think of it as an imposition. You're helping them as well. And then last, remember, everyone loves to tell stories. Stories are great. Thanks, and see you next time.